One of the moments on the Ukrainian frontline, a video released by a Ukrainian battalion appears to show drones getting through increasingly complex cope cages installed on Russian armored fighting vehicles to devastating effect. In a video posted on Monday by the 8th Separate Mountain Assault Battalion, part of the famed Edelweiss brigade, heavily protected Russian vehicles are seen to be targeted and, it appears, destroyed by Ukrainian drones. In the video, a drone approaches a Russian armored fighting vehicle topped with a tangled cage-like structure, and the drone hovers for a beat, before backing up to make what appears to be its suicidal and devastating last approach. A similar scene plays out for a second time in the video, on a different vehicle, before a zoomed-out view reveals 3 smoking wrecks. The battalion did not immediately respond to media requests for more information, but the vehicles were stationary, suggesting they may have already been hit. Russia and Ukraine have both been documented using what are somewhat sarcastically known as cope cages, makeshift frames or screens aimed at limiting the impact of missiles. As well as the complex, heavy structures seen in the latest video posted by Ukraine's military, other cope cages have taken the form of box-like screen cages, seemingly aimed at stopping drones. However, early versions were largely useless against the Javelins and NLAW anti-tank missiles that proved so decisive early in the full-scale invasion of Ukraine, experts told Bai's Alia Shoaib. RAND historian and former tank commander Gian Gentile told Bai's Jake Epstein last year that cages might offer more protection against some loitering munitions, like drones. But as the recent video appears to demonstrate, this is by no means a given, and any protection they offer is largely psychological. It is a psychological thing that soldiers do in combat when they want to live, Gentile said. Meanwhile, having to operate a fighting vehicle with a cage is likely a huge inconvenience, Gentile said, noting that they impede mobility and visibility. Meanwhile, Ukraine's military shared a video on Wednesday of a U.S. Bradley fighting vehicle destroying a Russian T-80 tank on the battlefield in Ukraine. The combat footage was shared by Ukraine's 47th Separate Mechanized Brigade, which is fighting on the front lines in the eastern Donetsk region. Where fierce clashes are ongoing, the Russian tank was destroyed with a heavy anti-tank guided missile, the brigade said, and Bradley infantry fighting vehicle against the Russian T-80 tank, the brigade added on its Telegram channel. Fighters of the 47th Separate Mechanized Brigade destroyed enemy equipment using a BGM-71 TOW anti-tank missile, Ukrainian leaders credit to the Discovery crew of the 2nd Mechanized Battalion, and the brigade also added, "We continue to work." The U.S.-supplied Bradley fighting vehicles are equipped with a powerful 25mm cannon, which fires explosive and armor-piercing rounds. It is described by manufacturer BAE Systems as having outstanding survivability, mobility, and lethality, and it can carry up to 10 personnel. Washington has so far provided Kyiv with a total of 186 Bradleys to support its military in the ongoing war against Russia, which was launched by President Vladimir Putin in February 2022. The clip published by Ukraine's 47th Separate Mechanized Brigade shows a nighttime battle ensue, followed by close-up aerial footage of the charred remains of a Russian T-80 tank. Both Moscow and Kyiv have sustained significant tank losses in the war so far, while the Russian side also suffered personnel and artillery losses last week. Dutch open-source intelligence defense analysis website Oryx has visually confirmed that 2001 Russian tanks have been destroyed, 156 have been damaged, 329 have been abandoned, and 514 have been captured since the start of the full-scale war in Ukraine. Oryx has also visually confirmed that 547 Ukrainian tanks have been destroyed since the beginning of the war, with 68 damaged, 61 abandoned, and 132 captured. On Thursday, Kyiv's military said Moscow had lost 7,429 tanks since Russia launched its full-scale invasion, including 11 in the past 24 hours. The General Staff of Ukraine's armed forces posts figures on Russia's troop and equipment losses as part of its daily update on the war. Estimates of casualty numbers vary, with Ukraine's figures usually exceeding those of its Western allies, but Moscow rarely shares information on the number of casualties or equipment losses it has sustained in the war. On the other hand, Russian forces launched a new cross-border offensive into northeastern Ukraine early on Friday, Kyiv announced, in what may mark the beginning of a new major operation imperiling the country's second-largest city of Kharkiv. The Ukrainian Defense Ministry said the attack was repelled, but that battles of varying intensity, ongoing at several points along the border with reserves deployed. The defense forces of Ukraine continue to hold back the enemy's offensive, the ministry wrote on Telegram. It said that the assault was preceded by a series of airstrikes and increased artillery fire before an attempt by the enemy to break through our defense line under the cover of armored vehicles at around 5 a.m. local time. The effort was focused on the area around the border town of Vovchan, the ministry said, which sits some 30 miles northeast of Kharkiv. The pro-Kyiv Deep State Telegram channel, which maps battlefield developments, said Russian forces are trying to enter and gain a foothold in a number of settlements along the border. The available resources used by the enemy at the moment will not be enough for a deep advance, Deep State wrote. Currently, the situation is such that the enemy is destabilizing the border areas, but it is not known how many main forces he is ready to use for this maneuver. Ukrainian analyst Taras Berezovs wrote on Telegram that not a single meter has been lost. The enemy group does not pose a threat to Kharkiv. Its forces are sufficient only for provocations in the northern direction. Pro-war Russian military bloggers suggested that the drive may be intended to set the stage for the taking of Kharkiv or simply to sow panic among the more than 1 million residents of the city.